Well, welcome to our presentation today at the Oakland FamilySearch Center. My name is Jared Weaver. I'm the presenter today. Give you a little bit about me. I've been doing genealogy work for over 60 years. I started when I was 14. I have a degree in it from BYU, Idaho. And I am a volunteer here on Wednesdays here at the FamilySearch Center. So we're going to talk a little bit today about a way to do organized research in genealogy. There's more than one way to do this, and several people have different ways. BCG has a way, that's the Board for Certification in Genealogy. ICAP Gen is another outfit that has ideas, the American Genealogical Society. And what you do is you can look at all of these different ways and pick the one that you like. And that's what I did. It's actually based on BCG and ICAP Gen to a large extent. And this is not the only possible way you can do this, your genealogical research, but this way works for me. It may work for you too. Okay, this has 6 steps to it. We're going to work at first is you decide what it is you want to research. You find out where the stuff that you're trying to work on can be. Then you find the stuff that you're looking for, the actual data. Then you analyze it. You rectify it because there's always going to be conflicting information. And once you get all that done, then you tell somebody else about it. So this is going to be a 30,000-foot view of this program that I'm doing. And we're going to go over each of these steps one by one here. Each of these steps could be a class in itself, but we're going to, like I said, we're going to move pretty fast here. So the first one is we're going to decide what we want to work on. And we need to decide where we want to keep our data. We're talking about a little bit about that. We have to find and verify what we want, how much of this that is out there already, and there's a lot of this stuff that's out there already. We want to find out how much of that is true. And then we're going to talk about creating a research question. So who do you want to work on? Well, that depends on where you are in family history work. If your family history chart looks like that, your fan chart looks like that, you start with you. Document yourself. Look at all the stuff that you have that's out there. Documents that say you are who you say you are. You probably have a birth certificate. You may have some school papers. And you want to document you and then move to the other people. Be careful with living people. There's Privacy Act considerations, and they are different country to country. The research sites only show dead people because the living people have privacy. Dead people, they figure they don't need privacy. So that's how that works. You get to the departed ancestors through your living ones. So you start with you. Now, if this is my family tree after 60 years of work, and it's mostly complete, at least to 7 generations. So if you have a chart that looks like this, I can tell you in my personal opinion on this stuff, my job is not to find new people. My job is to straighten out the mess. And there is mess here. So you can pick a person and start working on them, which is what I do. Verify that information for that person, find new information for that person if you can, fix the mess, fix the problems, and then go pick another person. And it won't take long till you filled holes. Now, anybody remember those kind of books?
Yep. Oh, yeah.
Still have them? Still have them? They're still sitting on the shelf. They're gathering dust. Yes.
The best.
They're the best.
No electricity needed.
Yeah. Yes. No batteries required, no electricity, and they're built to be used with a Mark I eyeball. So there's a lot of goods to this, but what's bad about it is everything is, while it's on paper, you may have the only copy in existence. Now, this happened to my wife. She had half of an article from a newspaper documenting her great grandparents' 60th wedding anniversary, which was a big deal in the early 1900s. She only had half of the article. Well, we went looking for the whole article. There was one copy in the whole world because the newspaper morgue had burned down. The newspaper was no longer in existence. The one copy was in the church where they held their 60th wedding anniversary. They still had that copy. So she got the copy. She copied that, and then she put that up on FamilySearch so everybody else can look at it. But that's the only copy left in the world for that. Now, you can put books of remembrance electronically, things like Roots Magic, Family Tree Maker, a lot of others. The problem with these, again, you may have the only copy, and unless you give somebody a permission to look in your tree, they can't see it. Most of these things are just on your little computer. And then we now have electronic programs like Ancestry, FamilySearch, WikiTree. These things carry your stuff in the cloud. The advantage to that is that if your book burns or you die and your family doesn't know what it is and they throw it out, the information still exists out there. The disadvantage is you need electricity.
Well, and there's other disadvantages, right?
Oh, there's
So
kinds of,
Ancestry, you need to pay a subscription.
Oh, yes.
And edit the data.
yeah. And so there's a lot of difference here, good and bad for these things. But one of the good things is the stuff is out there now in the cloud someplace. Like Rudy says, Ancestry you have to pay for, Find My Past you have to pay for. WikiTree doesn't have to pay for, and FamilySearch is free. But anybody can put stuff up there and nobody is watching to see if it's right. You're the one who watches to see if it's right. Now you can keep your stuff in more than one place. I personally am lazy. So I just keep all of my stuff in FamilySearch. Esta, my wife, keeps her stuff in Roots Magic until she's ready to put it on the FamilySearch. The reason she does that is she's had people screw up her stuff, and now she still has a copy that she can fix what happened in FamilySearch. So you see, you first find out where you want to go, and then what's out there on the people. And now is where you try to find out how much of what's out there is true. Where is it sourced? Sources are the big part here. They haven't always been a priority for people doing family search or family history research. But sources are the gold standard. You source something, you say, I found this, and this is where I found it, and this is where you can go to get it. That cuts out a lot of arguments. But then how trustworthy your sources, we're going to talk a little bit about that a little bit. That formula down here on the lower left corner is my formula, G minus D equals M. Genealogy without documentation is myth. It may be right, it may not. You don't know. So look at what's out there. Is it sourced? Is it believable? Does it make sense? This is a sniff test type thing. And interviewing an ancestor, this is where you want to we call it interviewing the ancestor. You sit down, you talk about, okay, Mr. Ancestor, that says you were born here, but that's over here, and your family lives over here, kind of stuff. I ran into this Monday. I was helping a friend. He was very excited. He'd been trying to get his great grandpa across the pond. The only thing he knew was he was from Ireland, because that's what he put down when he naturalized and came to Wisconsin. He was very excited because somebody had put him in a family, and he was interested in knowing what was going on. So we interviewed that ancestor, and the guy said, I'm from Ireland. I was born in Ireland. He said that on his naturalization papers, and you lie on that, you don't ever get to be a citizen. Well, the family he was put in was in Norwich, England, on the east coast of England. And his name was George, and they already had a kid named George, and that George also lived adulthood. So this didn't pass the sniff test. So now he has to go back and really find where his family came from. This is what you have to do with some of this information. Not everything out there is right. Now, sources, there's 3 types of sources that ICAP Gen works with. They call them the original sources. These are the gold standards, the ones that made at or near the time a event happened. Birth certificates, death certificates, christening records, burial records. Family Bibles fit in here because people put the stuff down right shortly after it happened. Derivative records are things based upon another prior record. And then there's authored narratives. Now, these can all be very good. Some of the best authored narratives are the Barber collection in Connecticut. He went through and combed all of the parish records and put all this stuff. Torrey did it for marriages. Those are very good authored records. Some are very good, some are not. And how you work it is you're more likely to have something right in the original record, but it could also be wrong. So this is how you estimate. Well, this was in an authored record. Is it like Barber, where he put source information so you can go back and find the original source that you looked at? Is it just somebody, well, Aunt Fanny said we're going to do this, and they put it down? That kind of stuff. Now we got what's called the sniff test. What's the distance between the events, between when the event happened and when it was recorded? My dad's birth certificate was made 30 odd years after he was born, because he was born down in LA in a house in a farm type area. Where the house is now the 110 freeway. And he didn't have a birth certificate. They did make them, but they just didn't do it. When he joined the Army, they required him to have a birth certificate. So he and his dad and his mom had to travel on the train down to LA and stand up and swear that dad was born on 12th of July, 1903. Now, does it jibe with other evidence? This is where you get, like my friend. Well, the other evidence is the family they put him in already had a George. And how does it feel to you? What's your gut say about this, what you're looking for? So you take all of this when you're trying to find somebody, you have something to do, and what you see is out there. So now you create your research question. And we call these SMART research questions. They're specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and timely. So let's say you're trying to find stuff out about your great grandpa. Your research question is not, I want to find everything there is to know about my great grandpa. Why is that not right? Not a good research question. Well, first of all, you'll never know when you're finished. Because you can't know that you've got everything all the time. So you make it a specific thing. We're going to talk about that in a minute here. So a very specific thing. I want to find the birth or christening record of so-and-so. Or I want to find where they migrated from when they left Georgia going to Wisconsin. And is it timely? Is it realistic? So we're going to talk about, I'll show you an example here. This is in my family. William Cully here, I was working on him. And my grandmother had him down as being born about 1820 in Nottingham, England. Somebody put in, he was christened in Ayrshire, Scotland. Well, that's 300 miles apart. So my research question was determine if he really was christened on the 20th of February in Scotland. Is that William Cully, my William Cully, the son of Samuel Cully and Charlotte Fish from Nottingham? Now, one other thing to talk about on that, why I was taking a sniff test on this. Samuel Cully was what was called a framework knitter. This is the lowest job you could get in Nottingham. It's a cottage industry. You had this big machine to knit on. Big, huge thing. It's about as big as half this room. And you didn't own that machine. Somebody else owned it. They rented it to you to do the knitting. You had to buy your yarn from that person. The finished product were paid for by that person at whatever price he set. And if the machine broke down, you had to fix it on your own dime.
That'd be a gig
Yeah.
if you own the machine.
But yeah, the owner machine guy, he was making money hands and fists. These poor people who were framework knitters were going crazy. In fact, they were so poor that, of course, back then, these people didn't have internal plumbing. They had outhouses. They were so poor, they didn't have their own outhouse. They had a community neighborhood outhouse that everybody in the neighborhood used. It was that bad. So that was my research question, finding William. So now where am I going to go look? And first of all, I want to find out where could the information possibly be. That person didn't have a source, by the way. Places you want to find general information and specific information. What is the general information in the area? Well, specific information is where would they have these things? When did they start doing birth certificates? When did they start doing death certificates? What were the churches out there around the time? The places to go for learning general information are the FamilySearch Wiki, Linkpendium is good. Cindy's List is good. And lumped all together are all the search engines, internet search engines. Everybody has their own way of bringing stuff up and looking at it. And sometimes you'll find it on one and not in another. Sometimes you'll find it in Google. Sometimes you'll find it in Yahoo, not Google, because everybody has their own search engine. So go to all the different ones you can. My personal thing is the first place I go is to the Family Search Wiki. And in the Family Search Wiki, you can get hot links. Those little hot links bars there will take you to wherever you want to go. And it is extremely good at finding the specific information you want. It is agnostic, where it's programs. It lists Family Search stuff first, but if that stuff exists on Ancestry, not Family Search, it will tell you. So it's very, very good for that. Because it's called Family Search, it's called a wiki, anybody can put an article in. So if you know something nobody else knows, you can put an article in. You can sign up to do that, and you can put your article. I have an article in the Family Search Wiki, by the way. So anybody can do it. Cindy's List, you have to be careful in Cindy's List because you get they take you to a lot of websites, and if one's bad, if you tell them, they'll fix it. And that's a problem with the website. So I haven't got that listed on this program, but there's something called link rot, and links tend to die after 2 years. So you have to watch that kind. One thing, a lot of what's in Cindy's Lit actually goes back to Family Search Wiki. But it's a good place for a lot of different stuff. Linkpendium, mostly in the United States. There is some stuff in Ireland and the United Kingdom. They haven't really gone to other countries, but if you're working in the United States, Linkpendium is a good place to look at stuff too. And then the web crawlers for the web playing, the websites, all those different search engines. Dogpile is a search engine of search engines called a meta search engine. So sometimes you want to go there too. So I went to Family Search Wiki, and I found that Family Search had the parish registers for air and the time I'm looking for. So that was what I wanted to get. So we've spent time here. We've decided what we wanted to know. We found where it probably is. And now we're finding it. Or not. Here's the problem we've got. When they first started digitizing family records, Family Search, Ancestry, everybody else that was doing this, they said, we're started out, we're working very hard, and we think we've got right now 10% of all the records that are out there. And we're going to work, and we're going to get more, we're going to get more, and we're going to get more. The problem they found is every time they found an item in the orange, to digitize, they found 2 more that weren't even in the pie. So now, after 10, 20 years of super heroic work, I mean, you go out there, there's tons of stuff in all of these sites. They now say, we've only got 5%. The other stuff lives in places like this, where if you can go there, you go and you look. If you cannot go there, sometimes you can get somebody to help you. professional genealogists. Sometimes the librarians will help you, but depends on where you're going. And if you are looking in some countries, not Western Europe, this is the Vital Records National Archives for this particular country. And that's not the worst I've seen. The worst I've seen was a 2-car garage. So I went in for William and I found the record that said a William Cully was christened in Ayr. And that's the record. And this is, I abstracted it. This is William. His dad is Samuel. His mother is Charlotte Fish. This is rare in British records to have the mother's maiden name. Scotland did it. The other countries, other parts of England didn't. They just say, they would have said, William Cully, the son of Samuel Cully, and his wife Charlotte. But this one has her maiden name. This is really great. So yes, this is my guy. That's great. Now I've got extra questions that this thing poses. Why were they in Scotland? He was a soldier. Now, this is where I go into Google and say, what were English soldiers doing in Scotland in 1820? And there was a revolt going on, and they were putting that down. That's why he's in Scotland. His wife is with him. It's a long-term posting. And they even have his outfit, the 4th Veterans Battalion. So, gee, can I find maybe his military record? And what is a Veterans Battalion? Again, Google it. These were soldiers who could still do administrative stuff, but they were not physically fit to be combat soldiers. What was his disability? So I've got now more questions, but I fixed this. I now have his birth date. That was on the record. I now have his christening date, and I have sources. I have sourced this. So nobody will come back and say, well, wasn't he born in Nottingham? No, he was born over here, and this is why. Now, there are certain things we get into as researchers. We call them rabbit holes, BSOs, and brick walls. Anybody know what a BSO is?
No.
Bright, shiny object. Rabbit holes are when you're looking for somebody here that you're working on and you see somebody else in your family over here. Oh, I've been looking for that forever. And you start going down that trail and down and down and down with Alice and the Cheshire Cat. And pretty soon you can't remember where you were to begin with. The next one is the BSOs, bright, shiny objects. This is like a rabbit hole, except it's something for your person. Like William's dad, Samuel. Okay, I found William, but Samuel, he's a soldier. What are we going to do about that? Where was he at? What was his disability that made him in a veterans battalion? Where's his record? Going down that way. The third problem is brick walls. You just cannot find, there's nothing there. You just cannot find what you're looking for. With this one, you just put it aside and you come back later because new stuff is being added all the time. Ancestry adds stuff weekly. Family Search adds it daily, if not hourly. So let it go for a few weeks, come back, maybe you'll get something. And there is a way that I fix not going down these traps, these rabbit holes, BSOs, and brick walls. What I do is when I find the thing, I keep a note pad. If I did it by hand, I wouldn't be able to read my own handwriting in 3 days. So I do it on the computer. This is a table that I set up in Word, and I have all of these things. So here for all the stuff I found on Samuel, I've put that over here. This is where something I want to work on when I get a minute. And if you'll notice on this, I copied the actual sheet from my book of remembrance that grandma made. That's for my grandma's handwriting. And I started this with, okay, I need to check out stuff. Well, the marriage record is something I also need to work on, because when they were married in Warwickshire, being a soldier, that makes sense. They called her Finch, not Fish. There were finches in the area. I haven't had time to go in and see if she really was a fish. I think she was, because I think she came down to get married to him. They'd been stepping out beforehand. And neither of them were literate, so they couldn't tell what the guy wrote. Then here is where I put the stuff about the 4th Veterans Battalion. So I've got this stuff here. I don't have to remember it. This has saved me more time. I also put in here things when I'm going along and I'm trying to find something. Okay, I'm trying to find this. Oh, I have to be at a Family Search Center. Well, I'm home right now, so I put it in here and say, next time I'm at the Family Search Center, I can work on it. Or I've got to be in Salt Lake at the Family Search Library there. Some stuff that you work on has only permission that it can be seen at the Family Search Library in Salt
Is
Lake.
this the Word document, Jared?
This is a Word document. You can do it in Excel too.
You're typing a lot of words.
I'm typing a lot of words, so I find it better to do it in Word.
Yep.
But you can do it in Excel, you can do it however you want.
That's a table.
That's a table in Word, yes. And just so you know, that's 17 pages long.
So that's your whole family, everyone.
No, that's just everybody that I have, that I've got BSOs and rabbit holes on.
Oh, that rabbit hole.
So you have lots of these words, what Word documents, one for each family group record?
No, this is that, no. This is all of my BSOs are in one document. And so when I'm up in Salt Lake, I bring it up and look, okay, it says I need to go to Salt Lake. I'm in Salt Lake. Okay, I'm going to work this one. Yeah.
This might be, my question might be a little outside the scope of what you're addressing, but I'm like you, I've got a lot of family group sheets that, my grandmother did, my mother did. And so they're kind of sentimental in a sense, just for that reason. But so I've aspired to do this, get them all scanned in and so that I can organize them.
Yeah.
And digitally organize them and then, access them more easily and cross-reference with what's in Family Search and that sort of thing.
Some of them are still actually the Church of Jesus Christ Latter-day Saints had 2 programs. When I was 14, it was called the 7-generation program. And they wanted you to put together 7 generations of your stuff. Type it up, send it in. I did that. I didn't do the research. My folks had their book, and they just handed me their book. And so I typed it all up because I was the one who knew how to type. Then they said, well, no, we're not getting very much. Let's do it just a 4-generation program. So they did that. We did it again, put those in. Those 7 generations and the 4-generation stuff are now, they were microfilmed and now they've been digitized down there. But I think you have to be in Salt Lake to see them.
Okay. So, this might be outside the scope of what you're addressing, but
Mhm.
what's your intention to do with the originals once you get them all scanned and digitalized?
They're still in my book.
You still keep?
Mhm.
There's-
For sentimental pieces, like I say, that's grandma's handwriting there. She had a very nice handwriting. So, and I knew her. She died when I was quite young, but I knew her, and so it's kind of a neat thing to have.
I'm just trying to figure out,
What you were talking about is research logs. We'll get into those later.
Okay.
And I do have one of those for each person I'm working on.
okay,
If it's a major thing, like William, I didn't do a research log because I just was finding his birth certificate. But I have Richard Billings, trying to get him across the pond. He said he was from Taunton. We can't find him in Taunton. So we're trying to find where he was. And so I have that document of research that I'm doing for him. And when I find other people doing the research that too. So yeah, I have those things for big complicated things. That's not in my 30,000 foot view. That'll be another one of these classes.
that would be good.
Okay. We just have to talk Jane into
No, actually, I don't.
it. No, you don't. I do. So the next thing you're going to do once you get what you're finding is you need to analyze the information. Is this really what is, or is this somebody's guess? So again, how close is it to the actual event? How much time? Is it fact? Is it opinion? I've got one ancestor, and this is one I've been having all kinds of trouble with. His name is Benoni Patton, and we're trying to find his parents. Now, there are 2 documents out there, both authored sources, neither with sources. So they don't say where they got the information, that say Benoni Patton was the son of John Patton and Abigail Makepeace of Massachusetts. Well, John Patton, when he listed all his kids, didn't list Benoni. Benoni, in his Revolutionary War pension record, says he wasn't born, but he was raised in Vermont, and all of John Patton kids were born and raised in Massachusetts, south of Boston. The information that I have that I think it is he was not the son of that John Patton and wife Abigail Makepeace. He was the son of a Margaret Holmes who had a one-night stand with another John Patton in Bedford, New Hampshire, because she sued John Patton for paternity, but she didn't name the kid. And in his pension record, he gave his birth date, but not the place he was born. So
I think they live to make it complicated.
well, they did, and I think people have made it complicated because they didn't want Benoni Patton to be illegitimate. Because not only was he the father of my ancestor, John Patton, but he was the father of David W. Patton, the apostle who was killed at the Battle of Crooked River. They didn't want him to be the son of an illegitimate person. So I think that was that. And that's the other thing here. Historical spin, is there an agenda going? I'll give you an example of it. This was written by the ancestor or the descendant of Remus Starr. And he very nice talked about things that his ancestor did. He was
Oh, no. Dead end.
yeah, bad end. He was at his platform and it collapsed.
He was hung.
That picture is a crop of the only picture of him. And that's it.
Oh, gee.
He was a horse thief. He was a train robber. So you can spin anything. So be careful of that. If you've got a black sheep in the family, and everybody has at least one, I have two that I know. My brother and my maternal grandfather, both black sheep. Hey, it's people. And I just put the stuff down and it's history. So the next thing we want to do is rectify conflicts. And there are going to be conflicts in the information as you find it. So hey, you have to make decisions on these things. Are they good? Are you really talking about the same person? What's going on here? And one way to help with this is you go through this kind of a circle. Compare, contrast the same event in other sources. What do they say? Are the dates, the facts, consistent between sources? Are they not? Like my friend, he said he was born in Ireland. He's somebody put him in a family in Norwich. That doesn't make sense. Are there similarities, differences? What are the differences and how can you possibly rectify those? One of the ways that we do this in family search, especially if we're working in something that's a repetitive thing like a census, every 10 years, you get a census. We go what's called a census survey. And that's where you take each of the censuses, make them a column in a table, and the information you want to look at, you put down in the rows. So we've got Mary E, Eliza, Elizabeth. We got different dates. We got different places. Now, what's not showing here is they're all showing as married to the same guy, but I didn't have room for that on the sheet here. Mm-hmm.
Well, in my family, the family was in Norway, but before that they were in Denmark.
Mm-hmm.
And I know up to about 1600 and I record, it's all good. And then all of a sudden, we're descended from Harold Bluetooth and somebody's pasted all this stuff onto FamilySearch.
Uh-huh.
So I don't really believe that part. You know, that just sounds really kind of crazy.
Yeah.
So what do? Do you just sort of do your own research and tack it on next to it, or?
If you can prove with your research that he was not descended from Harold Bluetooth and FamilySearch, you take that off and you tell why.
Okay.
With the sources.
Okay. That would be a good project.
Yeah, that's a very good project.
Because it just all, you know, it was documented, and all this, and it was just the illegitimate child of this person or not.
Mm-hmm.
Who knows?
This is where it helps to know the history.
Yeah.
There are people here who say they got one line that goes all the way back to Adam.
Yeah.
Yeah. That goes through Charlemagne.
Oh, Adam. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Goes through, yeah.
It goes through the Charlemagne, who became the Holy Roman Emperor. And he grabbed this guy and said, Here's a job for you on pain of death. You have to prove that I am a direct descendant of King David, so I have the right to be the Holy Roman Emperor.
So the guy had to write it all.
So he did it.
Did he make it up? He must have made it all up.
Oh, yes. And as you look at it and you read it, he's going up in through the Scandinavian kings. And this guy, the son of this guy, the son of this guy, which it wasn't. This guy, the conqueror of this guy, the conqueror of that guy, and they weren't related. And some of the names he have up there are Norse gods.
Odin.
Yeah. Another one that you get is I'm related to William the Conqueror through one of his bastard children. William the Conqueror himself was a bastard.
Okay.
And he did not want to put that onus on any of his kids. So he stayed faithful to Matilda. But you got all of these stories that say bastard children. King John, the Robin Hood King John guy. There's stories out there that he had 23 illegitimate children. And there's no evidence of that at all. We had one guy come in one time, very excited. He was saying that he had just proved that he was a direct descendant of Queen Elizabeth I. We had to explain to him what the term Virgin Queen meant. He was not happy. So we have this census survey we're working on that. What things do you know? Well, one of the things that you find is on censuses, as the census progress, a lot of times women get younger. And another one that happens is that if the woman married a younger man, as the census progress, she gets younger, he gets older. And you don't know who the informants were on any of these censuses. Because the census taker, if they couldn't find the people at home, he went next door and says, "Can't tell me about those guys." So this is where you get these kind of things. Ohio, Pennsylvania, this is where you need the history, because those have a common border up around Youngstown and then up to the Lake Erie. Towns on both sides. Were there border conflicts? Did the borders change? This is where you have to get into history. That's why we call it family history. You have to do some history stuff. So we're back here to William. That was what I had. What was my preponderance of evidence? The legal term is called preponderance of evidence. There's two standards of proofs in court. If it is a criminal case, the standard of proof has to be beyond a reasonable doubt. If it's a civil case, the standard is preponderance of evidence. Where is the evidence more? Is it that much more, or is it that much more? But it's still preponderance of evidence. That's the legal term, and that's what we use in genealogy. Which means, do you ever watch Finding Your Roots?
No television.
Oh, okay. At the start of that program, it's a genealogical program. At the start of that program, it has a disclaimer that says this is the best we have with what we've got now, and if further research could change it.
Is that the PBS program?
Yes. Henry Louis Gates Jr. Yes. So how do we resolve conflicts here? Well, you identify the conflict. You want to know how they differ. And how can you explain it? Is there a rationale? And sometimes there isn't. Sometimes you just cannot do it. So you document what you have, you document the differences, and you say, there's no way to tell one way or the other. Put it in your notebook there for looking later, because sometimes something will come up because like I say, they're getting more and more stuff all the time. Or you may go to one of these repositories and you find something because you're looking through stuff. We call that dumpster diving.
So Jared, when you say, you started off the presentation talking about your book of remembrance
Uh-huh.
and how that's a problem because there's only one of them, et cetera, et cetera. And here you're maintaining some document that shows basically the two sides of one of these conflicts.
Mm-hmm.
Wouldn't you put that into Family Search as well?
Oh, absolutely. That's
Okay.
exactly where I put those.
Okay,
But I also put it in my little note thing. And I go on to other stuff and then I come back to it.
okay.
Just so I remember to come back to it. But yes, all of this stuff is documented and I document it in Family Search because somebody else may know something I don't.
Well, that's what I was wondering. Does Family Search have a place to put those kinds of issues?
Yes.
Not on the person.
No, you put it on the person, but you put it under collaboration.
Oh,
Oh, okay, because that's what I was wondering, if you were considering this a source or.
No, I'm considering it, this is research. But the sources, you put in as sources. But you also list them and in collaboration that this source conflicts with that source and this is how and why and whatever. And then other people can go into the collaboration tab and do the same stuff. Yeah, that's amazing thing they have for that.
So do you put,
That sounds like a topic.
Yeah, it is a topic.
so do you put a digital copy of the family group sheet in collaboration then, or you just put a note?
Well, it depends on what it is. Like if it's Benoni, that's not a family group sheet. That's a who's his parents. Well, there is both sets of parents are listed in there simply because this one woman absolutely refuses to believe anything I say.
The people online aren't hearing the questions coming up in the audience, so you'll need to
Oh,
repeat the questions.
I thought we had a microphone in here.
We do. Maybe we just talked a little louder.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's not, soft-spoken people.
Okay, I will repeat the questions. Yeah.
so my grandmother wrote down the names of her parents and her grandparents. She
Mhm.
wrote it on a piece of paper, and that's how I know who they are. And I found later that some of that information was in a relative's, I think, memorial, like by the grave or something,
Mhm.
those two grandparents. And that's the only records that exist, right? Because they were from Prussia and the records really, really, truly are gone from this little village. So I would put that in the collaboration part that my evidence is my grandmother knew her grandmother and her grandfather.
Okay, yeah.
That would
Personal
make sense
knowledge
that you
type
would
stuff.
know. Well,
I would put that, the question was, she has this piece of paper her grandmother wrote, listing her parents and grandparents who, from personal knowledge and, what to do with that. And I would put that paper in as a source, because it is a source.
it is, yeah.
And that it was her writing of what she knew, personal knowledge of these people. She knew all of the people on that sheet. I'd put that in as a source. Okay, now, once you get all this good research done, you got to tell somebody. Now, back in the day, we just put it in our family book of remembrance and nobody else knew of all that work you did. But now you can also put it in Family Search Ancestry, Find My Past, WikiTree, wherever you want to go. And these, now other people can see it. They can see your work. You have sources so they can tell you found this here. And they can go here and look at it themselves and decide if they think you did it right.
That's not quite true, though.
Why?
Because Roots Magic isn't an online database.
That is correct.
And neither is Ancestry. It's online, but it's not a shared database.
That is correct. But there are people who love Ancestry and they share their tree.
Okay.
You have the option.
You have the option of sharing your tree. If you want to keep it all in hold, it's going into the book, or it's going into Roots Magic, or it's going into a private tree in Ancestry. If you want to have people see it, other than that, you either share the tree in Ancestry or Find My Past, or you put it in FamilySearch. Now, the big thing with FamilySearch, because it's a wiki, your cousins can help you. And the biggest weakness of FamilySearch is your cousins can help you. But that's why you want to put the sources in, because if you have the sources, they can't argue. Well, they can.
They do.
They do, but you do a lot of good work that way. This is what we discussed today. You decide what you want to work on. You decide where it is, you find it, you analyze it, you rectify it, you tell somebody what you did, and then rinse and repeat. This is why family history is never done. Okay, any more questions? Anything online with questions?
Comment saying, thank you, this was very helpful.
Oh, I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
This is a great start,
Yes.
right? But there's a lot that comes out of that, like the use of collaboration
Uh-huh.
to document conflicts and maybe get others' opinion on it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's the best kept secret of FamilySearch is the collaboration tab.